Fox News alert, James Comey just became the first FBI director to face criminal charges. Just moments ago, the Department of Justice announced a Virginia grand jury indicted James Comey on 2 charges for obstruction and for making a false statement to Congress. Here's the moment when Comey got caught.
Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it.
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak.
I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
No one's above the law, and lying to Congress is a crime. And now he's facing up to 5 years in prison. Comey should have known this would have caught up to him. He knew Hillary planted the Russia hoax, and he used the hoax to spy on the Trump campaign. He used undercover agents and doctored evidence. After Trump won, Comey tried to take him down from the inside, but got caught. He's accused of authorizing his dirty number 2, Andy McCabe, to leak to the press. That's what he lied to Congress about. And this obstructed the congressional investigation and tore our country to pieces. Now, after he got fired, he confessed to leaking documents to a reporter to trigger a special counsel in order to impeach Trump.
Did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
Comey was sniffed out staging a coup and framing the president as a traitor, a Russian operative, then leaking and lying to Congress about his operations. These are actual crimes. Remember, they had to make up crimes to charge Trump. 34 felony counts, charges for a crime that have never been brought before in the history of our country. This isn't revenge, it's accountability. Biden gave Merrick Garland the green light to indict Trump, and they indicted dozens of high-ranking Republican officials and hundreds of Republican activists. They put a lot of people in prison. They censured us. They debanked us. They spied on parents. So this is nothing. So far, the Trump DOJ has indicted 2 Republicans, John Bolton and James Comey. And why would we believe Comey's side of the story? He lied about Russia for years. Now, he's innocent until proven guilty, and he's going to have to make his case in court. But we just hope he didn't spend all of his book advance money, because he's going to have to spend a lot on lawyers.
And welcome to Hannity. We start tonight with a Fox News alert. Major breaking news tonight. Former FBI Director James Comey, or as he likes to describe himself, Mr. Higher Honor, has been indicted by a federal grand jury in Virginia. Comey is now facing 2 charges, obstruction of a congressional proceeding and lying to Congress. If he is convicted, he will face 5 years in prison on each count. President Trump writing on Truth Social tonight, quote, "Justice in America. Comey has been so bad for our country and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation." As I myself told James Comey right here on this show a long time ago, he has the right to remain silent. We'll remind him again. Take a look. By the way, the last thing we need are lectures from Jim Comey. And by the way, Jim, just a reminder, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I think we're in better shape tonight. Anyway, I predict that tonight is only the tip of the iceberg. Pay very close attention as we go through this all throughout the show tonight. This is going to have a cascading effect. The same James Comey that protected Hillary Clinton and looked the other way when her team, we'd never heard of BleachBit, using BleachBit to clean their servers and acid wash them, basically. They were full of top secret, classified information. Remember, he said said no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute. Remember, there were phones that were smashed with hammers and SIM cards removed from phones as well. Oh, and Joe Biden, of course, had top secret classified information. He didn't get raided. Hillary didn't get raided. No reasonable prosecutor would prosecute. Only go after Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago and go into Melania's closet. Tonight, well, they are not getting away with covering their tracks like she did. Attorney General Pam Bondi tonight writing on X, quote, "No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case." And, you know, let's take this time right now to remind you of some of the facts in this case. On this program, we have spent years uncovering, unpeeling every layer of the onion of the Russia hoax and the lie. And it took a small ensemble cast, some of which will be joining us tonight, to get to the truth. We have been vindicated by the Horowitz report, the Durham report, over and over again, newly declassified information. But as alleged in this indictment, count one, on September the 30th, 2020, nearly 5 years ago, during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, former FBI Director James Comey denied when asked that he had authorized the release of classified information to the news media by allowing a friend and a colleague of his to be cited as an anonymous source. Take a look at what Comey said that day. Take a look.
He then asked you, quote, "Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration?" You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Now, it turns out that appears to be a lie. Remember, Andrew McCabe leaked to the Wall Street Journal, we believe, at Comey's direction. Comey's own friend, a special government employee, Columbia Law School professor, leaking to the New York Times at Comey's direction. Now, on to count two, the numerous other false, misleading statements Comey is accused to have made. In that exact same hearing, Comey was asked by Senator Lindsey Graham, who will join us in a minute, about a memo he received from the Director of National Intelligence, effectively making the investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails disappear, replacing it with the Russia hoax. Comey said he never remembered, had no clue what happened. Watch this.
So do you recall getting an inquiry from the the intelligence community in September 2016 about a concern that the Clinton campaign was going to create a scandal regarding Trump and Russia?
I do not.
You don't remember getting a investigatory lead from the intelligence community? September the 7th, 2016, the U.S. intelligence officials forwarded an investigative referral of to FBI Director James Comey and Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok regarding U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private email server. You don't remember getting that or being taught? That doesn't
ring bells with me.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty stunning thing. It didn't ring a bell, but it did come to you.
Now, Senator Graham was on this program that very same night. I asked him whether or not he believed James Comey. Here's a reminder.
All I can say is he has a convenient memory. He remembers what is damning to Trump, and when something is helpful to Trump, it's like Sergeant Schultz was in charge of the FBI. I see nothing, I hear nothing, I know nothing. It's hard to believe that the director of the FBI in charge of an investigation of a sitting president wasn't told, oh, by the way, the subsource who prepared the dossier, we think it's a Russian agent back to 2009. It's hard to believe they didn't tell the director of the FBI. The subsource tells us that the dossier is bar talk, not reliable, take it with a grain of salt. It's hard to believe that they don't tell the FBI director the CIA has warned us that the dossier prepared by Christopher Steele and a suspected Russian spy is all internet rumor. So here's Comey's problem. If one person can come forward and say, I briefed the director about the problems with the subsource, I told the director that the CIA was worried about the reliability of the dossier, then he is in big-time trouble.
And Mr. Higher Honor allegedly didn't just lie during that hearing. He also appears to have willfully lied to a FISA court several times, saying that he had enough verified information to warrant the surveillance of American citizens, starting with Carter Page, backdooring into all things Trump world. He never did. And remember, the FISA law mandates that if you present information to a FISA court to spy on an American citizen and later find out that information was false, the law requires you to go back to the FISA court and correct the record immediately. It does not look like that ever happened. In fact, if Comey and his friends could do it all over again, we learned from questioning of Senator Lindsey Graham, they never would have signed the FISA warrants. Why didn't they tell the FISA court that? Listen.
If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application in June of 2017 against Carter Page?
No, sir.
Okay. If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application?
No, I would not.
Well, I believe you didn't know that what you signed was wrong. The question is, if you had known, you wouldn't have signed it. Is that correct?
No, if I had known that it contained incorrect information, I certainly wouldn't have signed it.
Knowing then what you know now about all the things that we've come to find, would you have still signed the warrant application against Carter Page in October, January, and April?
No, I would want a much more complete understanding of what we were.
Thank you very much.
When you knew that, Mr. Higher Honor, why didn't you go back to the court? The current FBI director, Kash Patel, writing on X earlier this evening, quote, today, your FBI took another step in its promise to full accountability. For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions, severely eroding public trust. Every day, we continue to fight to earn that trust back. And under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head on. Nowhere was this politicization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax, a disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, will be held to account, no matter their perch. No one is above the law. You hear that, last part from the left all the time. No one's above the law, not even a former FBI director. Now, Comey's arraignment to face these charges will be on October the 9th. Earlier tonight, Mr. Higher Honor released this video on Instagram responding to the indictment. Take a look.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
I'm afraid of him. He's a weird guy. As I said, I predict that this is only the tip of the iceberg. Be on the lookout for superseding indictments, other jurisdictions, potentially other charges.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Brian Kilmeade will be coming around shortly to take your drink order. Happy Thursday, everyone. So a new study links drinking alcohol to the risk of dementia. Alcohol and dementia. Sounds familiar. Turns out a South African minister's prediction that the world would end on Tuesday didn't come true, meaning Mika Brzezinski had sex with her husband for no reason. Even he's laughing. Kamala's new book revealed that she moaned to her husband during Tim Walz's disastrous VP debate, marking the first time Tim Walz has ever made a woman moan. Harris also wrote that there was, quote, more riding on Tim's debate than there should have been. Her husband, Doug, agreed, saying there should have been more riding on nannies. New York Governor Kathy Hochul was booed by fans when she was brought up on stage at the Ryder Cup golf tournament. But the worst moment came when golfers mistook her face for a three-wood. Barack Obama admitted he had to dig himself out of a hole in his marriage. Luckily for Joe, they didn't fill it. Hillary Clinton told Morning Joe that Americans have to stop finger pointing, especially kids who point at her and say, "Mommy, is that the lady who killed Jeffrey Epstein?" I know. Where do kids get this idea? Probably the internet. Pregnant women have been posting videos of themselves taking Tylenol after Trump said there's a link between the pain reliever and autism. Wow, I hope Trump will link autism with doing the dishes. She's so happy doing the dishes. President Trump hung an official picture of Joe Biden's auto pen at the White House. If you think that's bad, look at the new official picture of Bill Clinton. Finally, a California town has posted warnings of an attack squirrel that sent several people to the hospital. Gavin Newsom is safe since he has no nuts. Thank you. All right. I'll take it. So following Wednesday's shooting at a Dallas ICE facility, the left once again wants to make this a both sides problem, which is like saying both the arsonist and the fireman burned the house down. There's a big difference between fire starters and fire stoppers. That's why I don't have a calendar of New York's sexiest arsonists in my office. But whenever something awful happens, like the assassination of a conservative or Brian Kilmeade writing another book, if you dare point out who did it, they yell both sides. But maybe it is both sides, the hard left and the left. The only other time it's both sides is when the shooter claims to be male and female. But why not hear the other side out? So let's put on our hazmat suits and head over to MSNBC, where they actually suggested leftist terrorists writing slogans on bullets as a tactic from the right. A former FBI official actually said this.
Brenton Tarrant, he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds. So to see this coming from, potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange. If you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff, I don't know why you would, use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years.
Not hard to see why he has former in his title. What does a killer from New Zealand have to do with lefty maniacs in the U.S.? Nothing. It's like blaming the Klingons for Jesse Waters' hair. It's the biggest reach since Jay Pritzker tried to scratch his balls. course, it didn't end there. Here's MSNBC's Rosa Flores.
We've also seen the very dramatic videos of ICE nabbing individuals and tossing them into unmarked vehicles. A lot of these ICE agents have been masked, and so it has been very divisive. And there's been a lot of fear in the different communities where we've been reporting.
So I guess the agents had it coming. It's the old look how the rape victim was dressed routine. She's telling them not to wear masks while they're being shot at. But this stuff is sanctioned, even by the party's leaders. Here's Gavin Newsom, a governor who runs his state like a college sophomore smoking his first joint.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic.
Oh. If you truly believe that in your soul, we must first accept that you have one. But he knows what he's doing. He's not calling Trump a big jerk. He's saying he's a fascist. And what do you do with fascists? Well, Tyler Robinson showed you. But thankfully, other Democrat leaders are toning down their rhetoric.
How do you prove to somebody that you're a U.S. citizen? Your accent? The color of your skin? That's not the country we live in. You know, you shouldn't have to walk around with papers the way that they did in the early days of Nazi Germany to prove that you belong and that you're not one of them. And that is essentially the kind of country that we're becoming.
Usually when Pritzker throws the N-word around, he means nachos. Acid fully loaded and keep him coming. Be easier to take him seriously if he had a neck. He looks like a pelican swallowing a pot roast. And of course, if you smell wet garbage, you know Hillary's in town.
The idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, you know, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology, it's just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for.
What? Isn't she charming? No wonder Bill spends most of his days perched in a tree outside the local Hooters. Today's left thrives on declaring their enemies evil. But us, we mock, we ridicule, we call people dumb, lazy, fat, wrong. But not demons, not Hitler. That's the left's game. Because once you decide your opponent is Hitler, then anything goes. Violence becomes justified. And then when some mentally ill kid takes their cue, you guys just shrug, well, it's both sides. No. The bombs under Fox News trucks, the ICE raid protests, the vandalized memorials, the bullets etched with anti-ICE, it's all coming from one direction. And the pattern is real. Screwed up loners get pointed at the approved enemies. So what is it about the left's reflex to say both sides following a murder? When a police officer comforts a grieving widow, does he say, you know, your husband could be really rude at times? What's the impulse behind bringing it up at all? It's a rationalization to protect you from realizing you might be wrong. It arises from that pit in your stomach where the guilt resides. Saying both sides shields your ego. And you got to wonder, why do surveys show that Charlie's murder was justified to so many young Democrats? Because he's conservative, Christian? If that's the case, then anybody with that label is marked for death. But remember, Charlie was only on the planet for 31 years and in the public eye for just a few. The people in the survey probably never heard of him until his death. That, my friends, is brainwash. So don't give me both sides. There's one side that screams Nazi and shrugs when violence follows, and there's the other side who's ducking and hoping they miss. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She's got more takes than Home Depot has rakes. Republican strategist Aaron McGuire. The only thing lower than his voice is his girlfriend's standards. Comedian Jim Florentine. She constantly fidgets and weighs double digits. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Duve. And his tailor needs a scaffold to measure his inseam. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA World Champion. Aaron, how are you today?
I'm well, Greg. How are you?
I don't care.
Okay.
All right. Do you notice? I mean, I don't think it's about the violence, because if you get into the violence, it's this both sides thing. It's about the language and the ideas used to advance the party's aims. I just think that if you start calling people Hitler and Nazi, this is what you're going to get.
I think that's very correct. They make it other. They make it so that you don't seem human anymore, so violence is the easier outcome. And you are seeing that much more on the left. Polling shows right now that Democrats, more than a plurality, believe that violence is okay in politics. That is not the same number on the right. And it's also Democrats who time and again say that words are violence. You don't hear that from the right. We don't make excuses because we try to be careful and smart with our language because we know words carry weight. And so when you other somebody, when you belittle them, when you make them someone who's no longer human, violence is an easy outcome. So they have brainwashed people into believing that as a Republican, we don't matter. As a conservative, I am other. If you wear a MAGA hat, I remember in the 2020 campaign for President Trump, we were in New Hampshire for the primary, and a high school kid wore a MAGA hat outside of a polling location and was punched in the face by an adult. The kid didn't confront him or anything. The adult just did it on his own. That is what happens when you vilify those you aren't willing to have a conversation with. And that is exactly what Charlie Kirk was trying to do when he was murdered, was take the level down and say, we can disagree, but we don't have to other each other. We can have a conversation. And that is so sorely missing on the left.
Well said. I'd say you killed it just now, but I don't want to inflame anybody. Jim, lucky for you, both sides hate you. So, don't you, you're an insult comic. Don't you think the solution to everything is just to go back to basic insulting? If you don't like somebody, just say they're fat or ugly. Enough with the Hitler, the Nazi, the fascist stuff.
I like that. I think that's a good idea. And, Hillary insulted me by saying white Christian men are, ruining this world. It's like, all right, how do I ruin the world? Maybe I don't recycle all the time. That's all that's how maybe I'm ruining the world. And who also is a white Christian man? Her husband.
Yeah.
So no wonder she hates us.
Yes.
I don't want to be lumped in with Bill.
Yeah.
I wasn't on Epstein's flight.
Yes.
If I was offered, I'd take United. I need the miles.
You're so right. I think that is probably due to the fact that Bill banged his intern, and she's still carrying that pain within her pantsuit. Kat, I'm trying to figure out how do you get the left to listen to us, to say okay, can you please stop doing this? You can get me to stop doing something by saying, just knock it off.
Okay. That's the funniest thing you've ever said. I'm still not done.
But no, I guess if somebody said, Greg, when you keep calling Joy Behar fat, she's getting death threats, I would stop. But I know she's not.
I just love that you've gone from I make fat jokes and that's okay to I make fat jokes and therefore I'm a hero.
Yes. Did you not see this
quite
coming?
A trajectory.
Did you see that everything? My career has been the answer to all of this problem from the day one.
You're not going on the defensive with fat jokes anymore. You're going on the offensive.
Yes.
They're not just not a problem. Now they're the solution.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like he takes his daily vitamins.
Yeah.
And he's wanted to make daily fat joke.
Just wanted to make sure we were all clear. Look, there's something that you didn't bring up that drives me nuts, because there is such a thing as being a person who's like, okay, I'm going to blame this incident on the shooter or the person who did it. But what we'll see a lot of is people who will try to blame it on the ideology that they're opposed to.
Yeah.
And then when it turns out to actually maybe the shooter was associated instead with the other ideology that they disagree with, all of a sudden it's, well, this is really nobody's fault. That's not fair, and it's so transparent, and I think that people absolutely should be called out for that.
No, you're right, you're right. Tyrus, what say you? Let's be petty.
All right, short stuff. Let's be I think the problem is that the ideology, the blanket, the camouflage. I think what the right has to do is they start having to attach who these people are to them directly. So you're not saying all left is racist, but when someone like Joy Reid, you need to say anti-white, black supremacist Joy Reid was on the news today. You know, anti-white men AOC was on the news today. Pro-shooter such and such was on the news today. I think when you start attaching the deeds to the individual, that's the chance for the group to be like, well, no, I'm not anti-white. What are you talking about? That's who you support. Well, I'm not anti-white. But right now, it's the right doesn't really do anything. They just say, oh, don't say that. But we need to start saying like, oh, this, that, and other. Also, you need to say things like, I will not. Anti-white black supremacist Joy Reid made these comments about son. We will not be airing that because we don't support that kind of talk on our shows. That's what needs to happen. You have to take a stand and look at the person directly, which they won't do because they want to blanket everything. That's why you say Hitler is what liars do. That's what narcissists do. Whenever you call them out on something, there's always a reason for it. You're like, well, why are you supporting this? Well, because the right did this. Not like, well, you know what? I overthought things and my bad. That's what an adult does. So we have to be the adult in the room and start calling out the individuals because as the list gets longer, the credibility goes away. And people will stop wanting to be like that person because there is no public shaming because they're covered behind that left thing. We have to start calling them out. Just like I can't stand it when I was growing up and they're like, all black young men will steal, you know? And it was like, no, say Tyrone did that. Don't put it on me.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't do it.
So are all black men named Tyrone?
You could be.
You know, the other thing I should mention is that the important thing is when like Gavin Newsom or Pritzker says this stuff, you can't arrest them for it. So you can, which is good. You can't arrest for somebody. If somebody calls you Hitler, you can't arrest them. So the only thing you can do is get them to stop calling you Hitler. That's the only way we can do it. So that's my point.
But it's up to the person who's in the interview to go, how so?
Yeah.
What is Hitler? Please explain it to me.
Yeah.
You know, in my book, I actually took 2 chapters to explain exactly who Hitler was.
Yeah.
Because we seem to have forgotten.
Yeah.
So the next time someone calls somebody Hitler, break it down for me.
Yeah.
In what ways? Do you need a chart?
I wonder what they called Hitler when he was around. You know who you are? You're Genghis Khan. I don't know.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.